Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another great Star Wars Battlefront video, and today I'm going to be talking about, as you can assume from the video's title, is all the hate that Star Wars Battlefront getting warranted. Now I know I made a rant saying just fucking stop hating on the game already, but people continue to keep hating on the game, so I'm going to examine it a little deeper, a lot of key issues, and I'm going to talk about them. If you guys have more key issues, I can make a part 2 to this video. Leave any more issues that I leave out of this video, just put them in the comment section, and I will talk about those as well. And I have good things to say about Star Wars Battlefront, but I also do have negative things to say about Star Wars Battlefront. And admittedly, a significant amount of the topics that I'm going to talk about do come from another review video from my friend Django Fett. I will link his channel in the description below. I just watched part of Django Fett's review of the game. I couldn't watch the entire thing because it was irritating me to no end, because I didn't want to write this huge comment with all these different rebuttals of his points. So Django, I'm not meaning to bash you or anything, but this is just my defense of Star Wars Battlefront, my rebuttal, but also some of my grievances. So, first off, I'm going to start it with probably two of the biggest things that really tie in together. So, first off, we have no campaign. So, everyone wants to argue... So, a little preface here. Everyone wants to argue that the original two Battlefront games, Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2, are better than the reboot, and that is for many reasons, and a lot of people turn to the campaign. So, let me talk about the campaign for a little bit in Star Wars Battlefront, the original two Star Wars Battlefront games. There was no fucking campaign. If you guys want to say there was a campaign, there was no fucking campaign. All it was just a series of instant action multiplayer matches. That was it. There was no story. There was a loose story, but it was pretty much non-existent. It was just this overarching, like, this is why you're doing this mission. This is why you're doing this mission. This is why you're doing this mission. Here are your objectives. There was no real campaign. And then let's inject my view on it a little bit. Would I have liked to see a Star Wars Battlefront campaign, like a professional campaign? Fuck yes, I would have. I wouldn't have liked to see a redo of the old campaigns. No. I don't want that. I want like an actual like story-based campaign where I'm either a rebel soldier or an imperial soldier, and that didn't happen. And personally, I'm okay with that. Why am I okay with that? Because I understand that they had restrictions in the time of what they had to do. They had to create the entire Star Wars universe just in 3 years or 2.5 years, however long they've been working on this. And then that ties directly into no instant action and offline game modes. So, the offline game modes, admittedly, in Star Wars Battlefront are very, very weak. Now, in the original games, they were pretty strong. You had instant action, you had every single map you could play instant action on. But that was only single player. If we go on to the multiplayer side, the rotation of maps was very, very, very limited in most servers, which kind of ties into the lack of maps, too. There was a lack of maps on the online multiplayer of the original two games, because servers didn't run all of the maps that the games had. They ran actually a couple less maps than this Battlefront runs, and that's saying something. Now, getting back to the no instant action, I personally am disappointed to see there was no instant action as well. I thought Battles was going to be an equivalent of instant action, but it wasn't, and that upsets me, as well as the lack of Galactic Conquest. That also really hits home with me, because Galactic Conquest was a game mode that I myself was very, very excited to see return in some sort of fashion in the new Star Wars Battlefront, especially if we could get an online multiplayer version of Galactic Conquest. That was something that I was really disappointed in, and that's something that I still kind of resent the game for, if that makes any sense, because they had this beautiful game mode in the original game, but they didn't transfer it to the new game, and that did upset me, but that's not something that I'm not going to buy the game for. I have had people tell me, like, it doesn't have Galactic Conquest, I'm not buying the fucking game. That's one game mode. That's one game mode. If I was going to tell you that they were going to make a Call of Duty game without Demolition, would you still buy it? Most Call of Duty fans would say yes, but seeing as Galactic Conquest is a fan favorite, let's try something else. If I told you there was a Call of Duty game without Search and Destroy, sure, a couple people wouldn't buy it, but the majority of fans would still buy it, which did happen with Star Wars Battlefront. But I'm getting very, very, very off topic now. Now let's lead into the AI. So, there's no online multiplayer AI in the new Star Wars Battlefront, but in the old Star Wars Battlefront, there was offline and online multiplayer AI. And let me tell you, a rock could do better at Star Wars Battlefront than the elite difficulty AI in the original two Star Wars Battlefronts. Those AI were so terrible in the original two Battlefront games. The only reason we all love Star Wars Battlefront is because it's nostalgia, and it's so goddamn easy. Those AI in the game are terrible. Terrible. Honestly, terrible. You could get a better result for the AI in Star Wars Battlefront slapping a donkey's nutsack on your keyboard. Honestly, the AI were absolute garbage, and I'm kind of glad to see that that didn't happen in Star Wars Battlefront. The elite, or whatever the highest difficulty is in the Star Wars Battlefront offline game mode, they're actually difficult to play against. They're not this just let's run in the opposite direction and shoot at your feet type AI. They're actually good. You can't go like 203 against these AI. It's absolutely ridiculous how trash the AI was in the original two Star Wars Battlefront games. So to see that not return, I can't really say that I miss that. Do I miss playing with AI offline that make me feel good? Yes, but that's what the adjustable difficulties for. Do I miss playing against AI in huge open combat battles? Yes, that's why I miss instant action, but I do not miss the AI from the original two Star Wars Battlefront games. So now let's lead into something that everyone was on a tirade about when the game was first announced, or when this feature was first announced to be missing, was space battles. So, space battles, in my opinion, were fun. Yes, space battles in the original two battle games, or the second Star Wars Battlefront game, was an absolute blast to play. But if you look back at it, and you play it now, they were so goddamn terrible. There was 2 layouts for the space battles, maybe 3. Yes, there was 2 layouts, and one of those layouts had a variant that had comets in the middle. There was so little variation from game to game that basically you just did the exact same thing every single game. You either were a dogfighter, you tried to destroy this ship externally, or you landed in the cargo bay like I did, and you went in, and you fucking blew everything up. That's what I did every single game, but it was still fun. Admittedly, it was still fun, but looking back at it, it was so repetitive. It was such an underdeveloped game mode. It had so much potential, but they didn't have the time to finish the game mode because they produced it in a year. It took them a year to produce space battles, a different, slightly overarching campaign story, clone troopers that were anatomically correct for Revenge of the Sith, and a handful of extra maps. That's what they were able to do with a year of development time between Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2. So, I'm personally glad we didn't get a space battles mode, because it would have been an underdeveloped pile of shit. And they didn't want to put that out. So what did they do? They gave us dogfight mode, which admittedly I have not played dogfight mode yet, so I will have to try to hop on that and see how that goes. So I'm glad we didn't get shitty space battles again. Now, a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, want to argue about the presence of only the GCW, or the Galactic Civil War, as the basis of this Star Wars Battlefront game. Why didn't we get the prequels? Well, as I've explained in previous videos, it fits the business model for making Star Wars Battlefront games, as well as it gives them more development time. So let's say they had 2.5 years, but let's just round that up to 3 years, just to be generous to the developers. So they would have to make a full GCW game and a full Clone Wars game in 1.5 years apiece, and blend those two together. Somehow try to blend those two together. And a lot of people would still piss and moan about it, because either they would have to have a specific section for the GCW and a specific section for the Clone Wars, or you wouldn't even have that much. You'd be switching between the GCW and the Clone Wars within lobbies, and that would piss people off even more, because it's like, oh, I just unlocked the A280C for the Rebels, but now I can't even use that because the next, 6 games are going to be in the Clone Wars. That wouldn't have worked. What they're going to do is the sequel, EA's Star Wars Battlefront 2, is going to be the Clone Wars. I've explained this in a previous video. It fits the business model. The movies are coming out presumably every 2 to 3 years, and with that, a video game of Star Wars Battlefront, or at least some Star Wars game, will be launching around the time that comes out. And if we project the movies for every 3 years, I'm just going to say 3 years to be generous. So 2018, Battlefront 2 would drop. 2021, Battlefront 3 would drop. And if we do Battlefront 2 would be the Clone Wars. It would encompass the Clone Wars, it would keep things fresh, and people would enjoy it. And then if we go Battlefront 3, coming at the end of the trilogy, that would give us a whole new trilogy to be encompassed in a Star Wars Battlefront game, and Battlefront 3 would be this new sequel trilogy, or the Force Awakens trilogy, or whatever the fuck it's actually going to be called, the actual trilogy. That's what it would be. Now, a lot of people are saying multiplayer only. That was a big questionable decision. I like the multiplayer only aspect. They put more time into the multiplayer. Granted, it wasn't balanced, and a lot of people have a lot of grievances with the multiplayer, specifically the spawn system. And I get it. People have a problem with the spawn system. I have a problem with the spawn system. But if you look at... Oh my god, 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. Phone was ringing. So, back onto the topic of the spawn system. If you look at the spawn system, in basically every single modern first-person shooter, it's flawed at release. You look at every single Call of Duty game that's come out in the last, 5 years, it's had a flawed spawn system. If you look at every Battlefield game that's coming out in the last 5 years, it's got a flawed spawn system. It's just something that happens in the industry now. These games don't get multiplayer tested enough because too much time is spent on development, and they're not able to test the spawns on a massive scale of the release, and they don't notice all these poor spawn choices. And so it's something that's going to be fixed through updates, in my own personal opinion, because that happens with every single major first-person shooter game at this point, is there's issues with the spawn system. So it's not something that you can really knock the game about. And then there's this crap about the game only having, 7 guns or 13 guns or something like that? 11? I think it's 11. If I'm not mistaken. It's 11. Alright, that's fine, in my own personal opinion. It's got 11 guns, it's got, I think, 4 or 5 weapons that are also cards, so that brings it up to a total of 15, 16, somewhere in that range. And that's fine. It's a Star Wars game. How many fucking guns did you think were going to be in the game? How many do you see in the movies? There's not a lot of guns in the Star Wars universe. There's not that much variation. Every single stormtrooper, or I shouldn't say that, but every regulation stormtrooper comes with an E11 blaster. There's not that much variation. It's not like Battlefield or Call of Duty where it's a soldier can have an AK-47, AK-74, RPD, M4A1, M16, fucking all these other guns. Star Wars isn't like that. There's a select number of guns. I think in the movies we see the Empire use a total of 4 or 5 weapons maybe. There's not a huge variation in guns in Star Wars, and so there only being 11 choices for weapons in Star Wars Battlefront is not an issue with Star Wars Battlefront, it's an issue with the Star Wars universe. They can't just go around making up their own non-canon weapons, because people would be pissed about that. If they went in and they made a D86 sniper rifle blaster, people would be so pissed about that. Because they'd be like, where the fuck is this in Star Wars? So you can't be mad at them for not making up their own guns. Because people would be mad at them if they made up their own guns. Jesus Christ, people! Do you not see that? All these modern shooters like Battlefield Hardline, Battlefield, Call of Duty, all that. Even different shooters like Crysis, and I'm blanking on other shooters because I don't play a ton of shooters, but they can make up their own guns. Or because they're set in the future. Or they can go with all these realistic guns. Star Wars doesn't have that many guns, okay? It doesn't have a ton of guns, so there can't be a ton of guns in the game. Jesus, they can't take that much creative liberty with the game. Alright, what else was I going to talk about? I don't even know, since I just went on that huge tangent about guns in the game. The customization. Alright, I understand the customization is very, very lackluster in Star Wars Battlefront. There's a lot of options, but it's just a lot of options for heads. And that does kind of suck. But you do have the Scout Trooper and the Shadow Trooper, and then a couple alien heads for the Rebels. But that's about it. And that is kind of disappointing customization. But that's an aspect in which I feel like they could improve in the next game in the Clone Wars. Because there's a little bit more variation in clone troopers and droids than there was in the Galactic Civil War. Because every Imperial soldier was the standard white stormtrooper in the movies. In the movies was either a standard white stormtrooper, a Shadow Trooper, a Snow Trooper, or a Sand Trooper. We didn't really see much other than that. And sure, it would have been cool if they included all those, and they might include all those through either free DLC or through the Season Pass DLC, but it would have been nice to see those included in the base game. I will concede that there was lackluster customization put into the game. I hope they can improve upon that in the next Star Wars Battlefront iteration. Now, moving on from customization, I don't remember what my next topic was, but I don't really think it was of that much importance because I can't remember it. But yeah, you can't have blue accented armor stormtroopers because that's not really canon. But if you go into Star Wars or if you go into the Clone Wars era, You've got the 501st that had that blue accented armor, and all these different types of armors, and I think that in Star Wars Battlefront 2, which I'm predicting will be the Clone Wars era, we will see a significant amount more in customization. That's my own personal opinion on that. Now, the game does feel a little rushed. I will give people that. A lot of people are saying that the game is rushed to make it out in time for the release of The Force Awakens, and EA is a terrible company for that. I will refute that for you guys. Sure, EA is a terrible company. In a way, they do have some shady business practices, but overall they're a pretty good company. I'm willing to bet people that the reason that Star Wars Battlefront was rushed and had to come out in line with the movie was because of Disney. In all honesty, the last call, the final shots are still called by Disney. Disney says, all right, this game is coming out on this date. It is coming out right before The Force Awakens. It needs to come out 1 month before The Force Awakens. They're the ones pulling the strings in the background. And EA is just the puppet for them, and DICE is just the puppet for EA. That's what's really happening here. Disney is getting all the hate focused on EA. In my own opinion, at least. And that's what I think is going on, is Disney is telling them, no, you have to release it in line with the movie. You need to build hype for the movie. And then my last point, which I actually just remembered, will be the Season Pass, because it is the most highly debated topic, and it will probably be the topic of a rant video in the near future. So the Season Pass is shit, in my own personal opinion. $50 for presumably 4 DLC drops, because I'm pretty sure that's what they said, is 4 DLC drops. But then you got free DLC sprinkled in between, and I really want to know what that free DLC is going to be and how much we're going to get. Because if we're going to get, like, what I'm hoping they'll do is they'll do the Season Pass in 4 drops, but they'll also do 4 drops of free DLC, which is never going to happen realistically, but I would like to see them, like, triple the amount of content in the game through DLC drops, both free and paid. And Season Pass, I left my own personal opinions on Season Passes in my previous video. I will try to get the link to that down in the description as well, because that's how I feel Season Passes should be handled, is they should just be you're paying for earlier access to the content as opposed to you're paying for the extra content. And a $50 Season Pass, a lot of people are saying that the price point is the huge, like, factor for them. Call of Duty Black Ops 3 has a $50 Season Pass. All the previous Call of Duties have had a $50 Season Pass since the Season Pass has been instituted. But people are just now saying that $50 is outrageous price for a Season Pass because now you have to pay $120 or $110 for the full version of the game. But Call of Duty has been doing it for 4 years, and no one has said a goddamn word about that. 4 or 5 years almost. 5 Call of Duties. The last 5 Call of Duties have had... Is it? Let's see. You go Black Ops 3, Advanced Warfare... Black Ops 2, Ghosts, Modern Warfare. Yeah, all of those games had a Season Pass. The last 5 Call of Duty games has a Season Pass, and no one complained about the price point for those. Everyone bought it. No questions asked. That's just what we did. And now, all of a sudden, because it's a Star Wars game, people want to backlash about that. And that's my grievance with the community, is this community is so goddamn fickle. They'll point out something, the issue in one game. They'll point out that Star Wars Battlefront has the $50 Season Pass, so you're not getting a complete game. It has huge weapon imbalances. It has spawn issues. It had server issues. It actually didn't really have server issues. But then you go to Black Ops 3, and it hardly got any hate. It has terrible spawns. It also, network connections were absolute shit. Getting into a game was shit for the first week. Any of those issues, yet it got all the hate, and Black Ops 3 got off scot-free because Black Ops 3 had a phenomenal zombies mode. That is absolute crap by the community. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really starting to dislike the Star Wars, or not even Star Wars, just the gaming community in general, especially on YouTube, is because there's so much hate for things that don't deserve hate, and there's no hate for things that do deserve hate. So those are all my opinions on Star Wars Battlefront. Is the hate on Star Wars Battlefront warranted? That is the overarching question of this video. Really, it's not. It's not, because it's a first-person shooter just like every other first-person shooter, and the reason that everyone's hating on it is simply because it's Star Wars. And that's the truth. And that is the whole truth. If this was not a Star Wars game, it would not be getting this much hate. Sure, people would complain about it more, but it wouldn't have this huge microscope on it comparing it to all the previous Battlefront games, or saying it's a Star Wars game and it's a piece of crap. If this was a Call of Duty game, not even. If this was just some AAA shooter from a new development company, people wouldn't be hating on it as much. People would be saying, alright, here's the way that we can improve this game, as opposed to, this game is an absolute pile of shit. And that is one of the other issues with the gaming community, is we just want to hate. That's all the gaming community wants to do at this point, is just hate. And so, I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope you did enjoy. And as always, I encourage you to leave a like rating, comment with your additional grievances in the comment section down below, and I will address those in a future video. And I'll thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys later.